Welcome to Beyond the Prep, a podcast dedicated to providing information and insights into the bodybuilding sport. This podcast covers a wide range of topics from finding a coach to the struggling of competing, nutrition, supplements, cost, and much more. I'll be talking with competitors so you can hear their stories, judges, coaches. If you're interested in sharing your story, send me a note at skapach40@gmail.com. Welcome to Beyond the Prep. My name is Sherrie Capach. I'm your host for today, and my guest today is Ryan Richardson. He is the owner and head coach of Team Ignite Fitness. Thank you, Ryan, for taking the time out and joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start maybe telling us a little bit about yourself and why you got into bodybuilding.
Of course. Well, now I've been in the industry going on 15 years. Obviously, my career started off as a competitive bodybuilder, which eventually transitioned into the coaching aspect. I guess we're going on 10, 11 years now of coaching. I first got into bodybuilding. I was an athlete growing up. I played sports. I played hockey. I played lacrosse. When I got into my later teens, I had the choices. I'm like, do I pursue a pro level career in any of those sports? And I was always the smaller guy, and the chances of that happening were quite minimal. And when you start, when you're a competitive athlete at a young age, you're putting a lot of time and effort into those sports. So I had to make the decision that work was probably more important at that point. And, when I hit my mid-20s, I was finding that I was missing that aspect of something that I'd grown up with. I'd always had that competitive nature. I was always an athlete. I needed something to keep me going. So I found, I was in the gym 6-7 days a week at that age. And, and surrounding myself with a lot of bodybuilders, a lot of competitors. And they kind of drew me in to, give myself some focus, give myself some direction, give myself, something to work towards, So I would say that the biggest thing was just, I wanted to be an athlete again. I wanted that drive. I wanted that focus. I wanted to be challenged. And that brought me into the sport for sure.
Okay. So when you first started with this sport, what was the biggest struggles you came across?
Obviously being in my mid-20s, I was very social. I had a life. I was in relationships, and and the biggest thing was trying to find balance, trying to find where you juggle between going out for a dinner with some friends or taking the girlfriend on a date, or trying to find the balance of, when I was going to train, when I was going to work, when I was going to go for a coffee with my buddy or have a beer. It was finding structure that allowed me to still somewhat live a life and still live the life as a bodybuilder. I find that even with my athletes now, the new ones especially, that they don't realize how much that focus goes into these preps and focus goes into our sport before they get started. So it's, I would say, yes, definitely finding balance amongst life.
Yeah. And did you know when you first started out how much commitment and balance it took when you decided to go into that?
I mean, I would say I knew more than most, just because I did surround myself with a lot of competitive bodybuilders, coaches. So I saw what they were putting in. I just didn't know how that would affect me. So I would definitely say that it was a lot more commitment that I realized, but I wasn't going into it blindsided. So I was in a better position than some, but it's still not realizing really what it took.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And to be honest, even going through my first prep, I hated it. I hated every minute. I never cheated. I never went off plan. I did as my coach told me the entire way through. But it was just this isn't the life I want to live. I don't want to do this. I hate this. I'm going to do it because I'm an athlete and and I don't say no to anything. I don't quit. But when I got off that stage for the very first time, my first thing I said, I placed like 6, I think, out of 13 guys. And I walked up to my coach and I asked him, I go, when's my next show? Hooked.
Yeah.
Yep. All it took.
So then with competing, how many years did you compete?
I went 10 years straight.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Everywhere from, back prior to what our federations, the direction is now. I competed obviously from the amateur levels to the provincial levels to the national levels. And then I was at nationals for a good 4 years straight, I believe. So yeah, so I ended my career. Well, I shouldn't say ended. It's always crossed my mind to get back up there again. But my last show was a Canadian national show.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to go into the coaching part of it?
To tell you the honest truth, I never even planned it. I was a competitor. I was dating a competitor. She was at the time teaching posing. And we had a mutual friend who was a personal trainer reach out to us and asked if the girl was dating at the time, if she would help her client pose, and asked if I would help diet her, and while she personally trained her. So we agreed and we said, sure, why not? I said, I'm not a coach. I mean, I don't have a ton of experience, I've got a few years behind me now of stage experience in dieting. I'm like, I don't even think I charged her anything. I think I just did it for free because I wanted to learn. Mm-hmm. And we started going through that prep. A couple more clients had signed up, my girlfriend at the time, for posing, and they ended up firing their coach halfway through prep and asked me to prep them. And then the next thing you know, I had a flood of people coming from their gym and their boyfriends and their friends. And next thing you know, I had a business. And I was running a contracting company at the time. And I figured I was loving it so much that I just found time to juggle between the two. Mm. And then it got to one point where I remember probably one of my toughest years. I was, working 8-9 hour, some 10-hour days in the contracting world. I was competing at a national level. I was in the relationship, trying to juggle that. I had 50 competitive clients.
Wow.
At the same time. So yeah, running the contracting company, in a relationship, trying to manage that, 50 competitive clients, and myself competing at a national level. So needless to say, when someone comes to me excuse they don't have time, I laugh. Mm-hmm. So I'm the wrong coach to make excuses to. Yeah. You can find time, I promise you. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a little nuts. So needless to say, I stopped one job and went coaching full time. So couldn't hold that for very long.
Yeah. Yeah. So as a coach, then when someone comes up to you and wants to hire you, do you follow any kind of procedure or protocol to make sure they're a right match, or do you just say, yeah, come on in? And
where I'm at in the career right now, for sure, we have to be in alignment. There's so many approaches out there, and what certain people are willing to do, what they're not willing to do. First and foremost, I want to make sure I'm in alignment with that client, and I want to make sure that client is coachable. And it's not to say I'm right, and it's not to say someone else is right. But in this scenario, if you're hiring me and coming to me for your guidance, that I want you to follow my guidance and be open to, different direction maybe than what you're doing, and be coachable. If I'm not feeling that and I'm feeling like they need a different approach, I will direct them elsewhere, maybe to a macro-based coach, or maybe to someone who, again, uses different dieting methods, or, that they're just not in alignment with me. They want to go full keto or something like that they truly believe in it. I don't. Again, the alignment thing is one. If we're in alignment and I can sense that, I mean, great, we'll proceed on. One of the things that I look for from a competitive standpoint, and even from a returning client, is I want to see the position that they're in and a timeline that they're considering to make sure that that's all in alignment as well. So for instance, if a client reaches out and said, Ryan, I'd like to hire you as a contest prep coach, I'll walk them through what I provide, what I do, how the service works, what's included, all that type of stuff. But before I agree to anything, I want current photos. I want to see where they're at conditioning wise. I want to see where they're at muscularity wise. I want to see what their goals are. If a girl comes to me and she's like, I want to be a wellness competitor and I'm not doing anything but wellness. And she comes to me and she looks like a bikini competitor. Well, I'm going to say, we need 2 years to put you on stage and we need some serious growth in order to actually move you into that category. Now, as of right now, you fit into the bikini category and we can shorten that timeline. So I want to assess where they're at conditioning wise. I want to assess where they're at muscularity wise, find the best class that's suited for them that aligns with their goals. Mm-hmm. And then align the timeline based on their current position. Now, someone come to me, they might come super shredded, full of muscle. I'm like, okay, 16 weeks out, we can consider that our on-season time, and then dial them in for the show. However, if they're coming to me and they're holding some excess body fat and are not comfortable with the position that they're in at 16 weeks out, well, then I'm going to recommend, okay, no, let's give us 24, let's give us 36 weeks, let's give us 6 months, whatever it may be, to ensure that we're working with a timeline that I see, with my experience, that they can be ready based on where they're at. That ensures by the time they get to stage that I'm putting a competitive body on stage and not just another number. I think I've held a pretty good reputation amongst our federation now that my clients come conditioned. My clients are ready to go and my clients are competitive. Now, I can't say they all will always win. We don't know who else is going to show up. It only takes one other person to be better that day. And there's a ton of great athletes out there. But I want to make sure that by the time my clients are ready to go, that they are in a competitive state and not just doing this for a bucket list. I will not put someone on stage for a bucket list unless that bucket list aligns with them being at a competitive nature. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Have you had someone come and say, I just want to compete? Like, I just
Today.
want to give it a try today?
Today.
Oh,
literally today. I had a consult call with a guy earlier today and he's like, I just want to do this. I want to go through and feel what it's like to be a bodybuilder. I want to see what it takes. And, I just want to get to that stage. And I said, that's great. I love the attitude. I love the direction because you've got drive, you've got motivation, but I'm not putting on stage just to put you on stage to put you through an experience. I want to put you through that experience and then the experience of being a competitor or at a competitive level that you do stand a chance of placing into those top spots along with your goal. Again, because not only do I want to ensure that they enjoy the process, but the outcome of that process is what they were expecting. Not only that, as we know, and you being a competitor yourself, when someone's on stage and they look incredible, the first question is, who coached them? The second question is that if they go on stage and they look absolutely horrible, it's the same question, who coached them? So from a business perspective, we want to ensure that I'm consistent across the board so that when my athletes are seen, I'm creating more and more business because of it. At the end of the day, it is a business for me. And, I have to make those calls to ensure that my athletes are ready.
for sure.
Again, that comes down to the timeline and, everything prior to ensuring that it all aligns with that date.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So if someone new's looking for a coach, what are they looking for? Like, how should they go about finding a coach? Like,
I love that you asked this. It's one of the hardest struggles as a coach right now because this industry is full of coaches. I've been in this game a long time and I've seen, and there was very few of us coaches when I started. There wasn't a lot to choose from. And, there were some good ones and some bad ones, as there always will be. But the issue now is that this sport has evolved so much and there's been so much business opportunity because it's involved so much that so many more coaches are coming in. And the issue with a lot of these coaches is that they just don't hold the experience that's required to prep someone for a show. It's nothing you're ever going to learn in school. It's nothing that you're ever going to be, you can go through an educational course for it. There's seminars. There's a lot of these higher name coaches now are coming out with their own courses to help people. However, experience is key. Put yourself, you're handing your body off to someone else. I like to use the expression, don't hire the dirty car salesman. And there's a ton of them. They can tell you, essentially the name of the car. They can't tell you how it runs, and they're going to just give you this and tell you what they're going to charge you. But in reality, are they the right fit for the job? Look for experience, look for what they're producing. First and foremost, if you go into one of these coaches' pages and see 150 posts of just them, and they're expecting you to trust them, on what perspective? Because they look good themselves. Some of the best coaches I know in the world don't hold physiques that could ever compete. But what are they producing as far as a clientele basis? Are they winning shows? Are they producing word of mouth? Ask around. Who are these coaches? Who's someone that another competitor would recommend? Again, pay attention to the credentials. Again, word of mouth, you will never get anything better than, someone who's worked with that coach. To pay attention to their athletes. What have they created? What have they won? What do their athletes look like? And again, interview them. Make sure that they align with your goals and your values as well. I might not align with someone, and that's fine. They might find another coach that does. But again, be very, very cautious of who you're allowing to take control of your body, and ensuring that, you trust that. And if you don't trust it, do more research on that coach. Go into their Instagrams, look at their clients, send a message to their client. Like I can tell you all day long, I'm the best coach in the world, but message 10 of my clients and they all say it. It's a lot more believable than me trying to pump that up someone and saying, I'm the best coach in the world, you should hire me. Again, create a factor that you can really trust. And I'm sure that if you message 10 of their clients that are on their page and say, can you give me some feedback on Ryan? It's a little more believable than someone coming out, again, like the dirty car salesman approach. I'm the best in the business. You should hire me. Says who? Best people to talk to is that person's clients.
Yeah. Good advice. Advice. I would have never even thought of that when I started.
Yeah, it's hard because you're kind of presented. I mean, the way me and you met, it was just happened to be at a show, and it was just and things aligned, and it's just, and it kind of progressing was great. But it's when someone's sitting at home and looking online going, what do I do? You can type in contest prep coaches and have 150 of them pop up. The first thing is you go find a competitor, go talk to someone, find out who they're using, or find out who they'd recommend.
Yeah.
And you'll be driven in a little bit of a better direction. Now, that's not to say that you're going to get the best direction, because if you go to a competitor that's been on stage once and they hired their buddy's dad who's prepped 2 people, okay, then you do your due diligence. What has this person produced? What credentials do they hold? How much experience do they hold? And experience, like I said, in this industry trumps everything. For sure.
Good advice. So let's go to the next question. That have you ever had someone start a prep for competition and at some point drop out?
Multiple times, for endless amounts of reasons. When we get into it could be personal reasons, it could be financial reasons. The biggest ones that I try to focus on, we look at it is even go into the talks about like when I've pulled someone out of a competition personally. One of the biggest things is, again, back to kind of what we were saying before, is being ready and being at a competitive level when being on stage. Now, some of these clients struggle. They don't know what they've signed up for. They don't know what they're getting into. Now, as we'll talk base about me pulling someone first, maybe that's an easy one.
Sure.
Now, again, I want to make sure that someone's at a competitive level. At that point, I have to ensure that looking at their physique, they're ready to go. Now, if I don't see that in alignment by the time that their show comes, I want them to reassess the goal. I'm going to reassess the goal with them. I'm going to say, okay, our timeline right now isn't lining up with your particular show. Let's reassess that goal. Let's pick another timeline. Let's continue working towards that. There's endless amounts of shows across our country now, so we can just bump to the next one. But let's give us, again, a little bit more time to be ready to, again, make that final outcome great for that client, for the experience on stage, and hopefully, a win for them. Now, the other side of things is, of course, going back to the point, if they pull out, again, some people don't understand what they've signed up for. They don't understand what they're about to, dive into. And life got too stressful. There was too much going on. And they decided to pull out because they just couldn't handle what it took to get to that stage. And it's not easy. It is a challenge for sure. So, besides the personal reasons for pulling out, I mean, those are generally the two biggest things that stand out in my mind when, again, a client's just, I have to pull it because they won't be ready, or two, they just can't sustain what it takes to be in prep.
Okay. So if you pull someone, how much, what's your timeline that you make that final decision?
It's a very tough one because not only does it come down to, I have to look at rate of progression.
Okay.
So from 16 to 13 weeks, let's call it, there might be X amount of progression. From 8 weeks to 5 weeks, in that 3-week period, there's X amount of progression, which should be much quicker than 16 to 13. That progression kind of rams up as we bring down the diet, we crank the cardio, we start, introducing new things to speed things up. So what it depends on the athlete, it depends on the category, depends on the level of conditioning that I really want to see them achieve. But, we can probably get a good sense in that like 4 to 6 week out timeline. Are they going to be ready? Are they progressing quick enough? And that 4 to 6 week out timeline gives us enough time to kind of pull back a little bit, pick another show and continue to progress. Some I've pulled to even closer because I was like just hoping that we wouldn't have to pull them. And I hate doing it. And I'm pushing, I'm grinding, I'm driving them to go harder. And sometimes it just doesn't work. And, and I'm open and I'm honest like that. If it's not going to work, it's not going to work. We're going to pick another show and we're going to do another one. Right. But, I'd say the average is probably 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
In that window. But again, comes down to rate of progression as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what is the one thing you wish you would have known when you first started your bodybuilding?
Something we've already kind of, been discussing through this, how tough it was going to be. What I was signing up for, what am I getting myself into here? I wish that my coaches were actually close friends and, they didn't really need to explain it to me because I'd seen it a lot. But for someone who's like a newbie, like coming into the industry, understand the level of commitment, understand like what's going to happen to your energy, understand what's going to happen to your social life, understand what's you're about to put your body through. I'd like to tell anyone that's willing to put their body through a contest prep, the rest of their life seems real easy after you've done it. And we joke about that, but it's like, wow, I just got through that. And I complained about my broken nail last week. What's stress? I'll show you stress, and so, contest prep is not meant to be easy. It's a contest. It takes some serious heart, some dedication, some serious, strength in the mind, to really focus and stay committed and not veer off and not throw the timeline off because you cheated. It's having that very strong headed mindset to do whatever it takes. And sometimes, sometimes it works against me where someone's like, oh, Ryan's preps are too hard. Well, okay, that's fine. I'm not an easy coach and I'm fully willing to admit that. And I'm willing to push. But how did your last prep go with your last coach? And why did you come to me? Did you win? Did your body progress? Did you look the best you've ever had? There's a reason why you've maybe come to this side or decided to use me as your coach, because I win a lot. Like, simple, and then again, that's the business side of things, right? It's like, yes, he's winning. Yes, I want to win too. So I'm going to align myself with a coach who is creating wins. So, and again, and I'm willing to push to get there, and in the most healthy way I possibly can, of course. I'm not going to risk someone's health just to get on a stage. We have a life to live after that. And I think a lot of that has gone missing in this industry. People want that instant gratification. They want that win yesterday. They're not willing to put in the time or what it takes. That's a whole other talk of, going into like what they're doing to get there. But I wish more and more people would look at this as a longevity factor and constant progression rather than an insane amount of progression really quick that becomes unhealthy.
Yeah.
So,
I find that's in society with everything nowadays, just a quick fix. Give me the quick fix.
unfortunately, it is. The patience is a virtue. It's gone out the door. Again, and people forget that you're not going to be a competitor till you're 80 years old, and like some will continue. I have some athletes that are in their 60s, but it's creating longevity, and it's be willing to commit and put in the time. And like you said, that's life these days, and people again just cannot fathom a long period of time. It's like the ordering that t-shirt online, like, I want it right now, like, I don't want to wait. So, but again, that's just how life is now. So again, and back to the fact that I wish people would just pay more attention to the longevity factor, and really look at the long-term success that they can have in a healthy way.
Yeah. Now, for someone completely new, you were talking about things like the time frame and the energy level and things like that. Can you just take that maybe a little deeper, like time frame, say when you're getting closer, what's about the time frame you're exercising during the day? Like, how many hours a day do you roughly go into that? And your social life when you're getting really close to prep, what goes on into that, and how it does work mentally. It's a big mental factor in this bodybuilding as well.
One comes down to the individual. Like, how good are you? How far away from at what point of like our timeline? If you're a super conditioned athlete at 16 weeks out, I'm not going to have to push to a situation where we have to push to like 6 days a week. And maybe I want to back off. I want to allow them a little bit of time to grow. Someone who's in a competitive nature where they're a little bit behind conditioning wise, well, then, I'm going to ram the pace up a little bit. A general average person is training for a show 5 to 6 days a week. They are in a position where I need to essentially push that timeline quicker and quicker and quicker to get them in shape. Now, the average person, again, 5 to 6 days a week. As cardio comes in, it will be progressive. Again, some will start with a little more than others. Some will start with more later on, everyone will have more later on. But again, it's hard. It's a hard question to answer because everyone has a different starting point and a different finishing point. Now, I've had people finish preps on half an hour of cardio. I've had people finish preps on an hour and a half of cardio. It is. I'm trying to come up with this in like an average. Let's just say this: hour to an hour and a half of training per session, 5 to 6 days per week, if you can consider that as a staple. Cardio will range in a beginning point of 20 to 30 minutes, and getting up probably at some points, if we need to push the conditioning to ensure it's ready, to an hour and a half by the time we're done on an average basis. Now, I've had people go a little bit above that. I've had people go below, but that's as a general perspective. So if you can consider those hour and a half training sessions, hour and a half cardio, by the time the end of the prep is done, then you can kind of better manage your schedules to kind of figure, okay, this is what I'm going to be able to need to commit to. I find personally, I function much better under pressure when I have lots going on, because I'm able to create a regimented timeline for my day. When am I training? When am I grocery shopping? When am I meal prepping? When am I doing my cardio? And essentially, okay, well, that I know when I'm doing all this, well, this half-hour window or this 1 hour window, I can go grab a coffee with a buddy of mine. So because again, we're so regimented during those times, right? So
that'll help. That gives them a little bit of a insight of.
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer because everyone's so different. Everyone's at a different starting point, but it's like, how do we get everyone to the end same finishing point, conditioned, ready to go? So again, some people will have a much more drastic push. Some people will have it a little bit easier.
So for someone new coming in, with all your experience, what's the one piece of advice that you would give a new competitor or someone that's even just considering it?
As we've kind of talked about this whole conversation, know what you're signing up for. Understand what you're getting involved in. Understand the commitment levels, understand what it's going to take, understand what you're about to go through. Speak to people, talk to past competitors, ask them about their experience. And that even goes to like asking, when I was saying about the referrals type of things, is what coach to go to. Ask them what to expect with that particular coach that you're about to work for, or work with, I should say. Understand what you're signing up for. There's a lot of people who come into this industry thinking they got what it takes, or what, and they have that mental strength, that mental capacity to get through one of these preps, and they realize how actually weak they are. They weren't able to stay out of the cookie jar. They weren't able to stay out of that extra peanut butter. They binged out. They went out and had those burgers through the drive-through at McDonald's they shouldn't have had because they couldn't, their willpower tested them. So again, how strong is your willpower? What are you willing to commit to? What does it take? I think that single piece of advice can send someone down a real clear path in a good way to saying, I'm prepared to do what it takes because I know what I'm getting myself into. Yep, absolutely.
As a coach, when they're driving through that McDonald's or having that cookie, now, do you find your clients are honest with you? Because you can only coach what you know, right? What you see and whatnot. So if they're doing something and not telling you, then they're not happy, but yet they're not spilling the full story.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen that. And I tell them, the more experience you gain as a coach, the more of an eye that you develop, the more that you understand an approach and what the end result of that approach should be, the more you catch a client cheating. You can't get past my eye. If you've cheated, I'll know. I won't call you on it, but I'll tell you right now, I'll know you did it. Because the approach that I use should not have caused a certain reaction. And when it does cause that type of reaction, and I do see it, I know what I'm dealing with. Now, on my consult calls when I have with clients, I always like to kind of divulge the information, to be open and honest. Let me know what you're doing. Us as coaches can't make the right call if we really don't know what you're doing, especially for contest prep. Now, for instance, if I had a client who ate a pizza their night before the check-ins, they jumped 5 pounds, they look quite soft, they were retaining water, things, their muscle bellies weren't what we call depleting in glycogen because they had refilled them the night before with, eating that pizza. And they don't tell me they're having the pizza and swear up and down that they have another pizza. My brain starts doing this. Because what's the next move? Do I trust them and say, maybe my diet did something wrong? Maybe I need to change my diet because I've given them the wrong approach? Or do I trust my gut and saying that person cheated, they're not telling me, and ram their cardio up? it's one of those things. I was, we were recently in a prep where I had a girl go quite backwards, and she never told me she cheated. So I'm looking at going, what is going on? Like, is she, are we dealing with down-regulated metabolism? Are we dealing with stress? Why is her body looking the way it is? Cortisol levels jack, body might retain, she's quite deep into prep, so I'm seeing some water retention. I'm seeing no progression. And I'm thinking, how do I get this girl moving quicker? Well, sometimes all it takes is a refeed or a higher calorie value meal to kind of speed that metabolic rate up and allow them to keep progressing. Now, this particular client didn't tell me, and I had to call them on it. And I said, listen, I've got two choices. Either one, I refeed you and I kick your calories up to ensure that your body starts relaxing. We bring your cortisol levels down. We essentially, bring that retention down in the body, and I kick a high calorie meal up to bring your energy up, to spike the metabolism, dealing with what we call leptin levels, things like that, and speed this process up for this person. Or if they tell me they've cheated and that's why we're not progressing, all I've done is take their cheat and added more to it that's made it even a bigger mess. She told me she's cheated when I called her on it.
Mm-hmm.
So that stopped me from giving that refeed.
Right.
And I cranked her cardio because I needed to speed up the progression because we were now behind. But I could have taken a body now that's behind, refed her, put her even more behind, and now we're ruining the weeks forward of prep because we're just not in that state of fat loss that we need to be in anymore.
Right.
So again, it was just trusting my gut that I have to call her on it. So open and honest communication through and through, whether you cheat or you don't cheat, always tell your coach what you're doing.
Okay.
Yep. Because I make the wrong call then. And then who's like, where does the finger get pointed?
Yeah.
Was it my call because I made the call to go cheat and she should have cheated, but I didn't have her ready on time? Or was it because she cheated and then I made the right call not knowing she cheated? Or I made the wrong call not knowing she cheated?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a tricky one. It's balanced. It's figuring people out.
Just got to be honest with your coach, right?
100%. We're not here to babysit. We're here to provide direction. We're here to create winners. We're here to transform you. We're here to, give you a good experience. And so the more we know, the more we can help.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Ryan, for joining me today. And good luck on your next competition.
Thank you. I've got lots coming up. So yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. We've got a
great season already to start.
Yeah. I've had a really good season, 4 shows. I think I'm up to 13 first places. I think I'm up to I think it was 10 seconds, 2 overalls, and lots more to come. Really strong teams coming up. So it'll be exciting to see for sure.
Amazing. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll sign off here and have a great day.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sherrie.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
I want to thank my guests today and my listeners for joining me at Beyond the Prep. If you like this episode and want to make sure you don't miss any others, please subscribe. You can also find us on YouTube.